Hey guys, it's me Chandrian. So today's video I'll cover for Visual Pool in 6.2. So between Durin, Venti, Xilonen, and Varesa. And also include should you get the weapon or early constellation. So yeah, let's get started. Let's start with the brand new character, Durin. So Durin as a new character, he is a versatile pyro character. You can even use him as a on-field, off-field DPS just for the application, or even just a support whatever that pyro related reaction. Yeah, you can just basically put him though. So because of that, he actually can fit in a lot of different teams, and actually really good. He actually have a lot of different teams. You can put like recent Hexarray buff like along with Venti, Mona, or even Albedo, something like that. It can work good. And also you can go with like Faye, Melt, or whatever like DPS you want, like Varesa, Mawika, even Cloran, even like Arlecchino, etc. It can work though. So basically, he character that as long you need pyro, you can put him though. It's not always the best option, but at very least it's workable and it's fast enough for you to clear like let's say like Spiral Beast or Theater or even Stygian to get all the Primogems. And in terms of rotation, I can say Durin is more comfortable or comfier option compared to Xiangling, although maybe he is not always the best option, but feels really actually comfy just because he doesn't really have much energy issue. Xiangling, you know, right? Sometimes it can be very terrible, but Durin it's barely present. That's why using him very comfy. As for downside or things to note, I don't think he even have any meaningful downside, but I just want to say in here is that Durin is a typical character that have a lot of different teams, so you need couple different builds. At the very best of course Noblesse Oblige, but if you want to extend like 4-piece of emblem or even 2-piece to piece, which can be quite annoying also just because you have to keep changing build, and you know in Genshin, right, there's no preset for artifacts, so it can be quite annoying job for you that you need to keep changing if you want to give at least quite optimal build. So yeah, I just want to give you a reminder in that too. For my recommendation for you to pull for Durin, which is first, is that if you need very versatile pyro character, whether you want to use as a on-field, off-field just for application for the pyro itself or even for the buff itself, then yeah, he can work though. Second, if you need a pyro character that can fit with a lot of teams, just basically almost any teams, then yeah, I really recommend. Especially recently, maybe if you want the older character, let's say like Venti, Klee, and friends for you to pair, then Durin is one of the best option actually. Third, if you would like a comfier option compared to Xiangling, not necessarily I say better, but more comfy, like feels the rotation nicer, then yeah, Durin is the option in here that I recommend. And the last one, of course, if you like character gameplay, feel free to pull for Durin. For Durin, should pull for Early Constellation or the signature weapon, and for me, depends on which stopping point that you want to go. If you go for C1, then I really recommend the signature weapon, mostly because the weapon itself have a better coverage. It gives you crit rate, also gives you critical damage, and literally just buff his personal damage. Also will give buff to the team itself, which is give you attack increase. So that's why this is well covered for both personal damage and also give buff to the team. This is actually good weapon. Additionally, if you use also with the Hexarray character, it even better though. It gives you even more effect, which is actually really good though. So that's why if you ask compared to C1, I will choose for signature weapon. C1 in general is actually pretty good too because it basically buffing both of his form itself, like the white and the dark form itself, and basically in general in here, although this is long, it's just basically buffing his DPS though, which is actually good. However, if you go for C2, then C2 actually better than signature weapon, mostly because after you use the elemental burst, it will basically give 50% of pyro damage and also the corresponding elemental damage in fourth though for 6 seconds. So that's why it's actually really good. But of course, take note, this will takes more pull than weapon. Technically in average, of course, not considering like something like that. So in general, if I want to rank, C2 is better than weapon, but weapon is better than C1. Second character is Venti. So Venti in general, since he actually already get buff, he actually already become a good character though. Especially right now become main DPS quite around like Chaska, which is Chaska level already good DPS, and he is also the best crowd controller. And I see the last post they even improve his suction, so actually even better. As for downside and things to note regarding Venti is that I want to give you a remind again that Venti buff is mostly to make him as a main DPS and of course improve his job as a crowd controller, so it's not focused too much as a buffer in here. So if you still want buffer, it's better to you choose like Kazuo or Sucrose in Anemo, he still not become like versatile buffer like that. Second, in order for you to fully utilize Venti buff, you need at least 2 Hexarate characters, like basically the character that getting buff dispatch include Durin. So yeah, you need at least 2 of them in order to fully utilize, so which is kind of make him actually quite restrictive in terms of team building for the maximum result. So at least you kinda need to pair like Durin, Venti, something like that. Another thing is that although he's actually become good, but the one that they highlight him as a main DPS, and right now we have so much option in main DPS, make it him feels like optional whether you like his gameplay or not though. But in the end, I still have my recommendation for you to pull for Venti. First, if you need the best crowd controller, then yep, he is one of them, and even right now become better, especially if it's in the early abyss where I think there's a lot of enemy. I think Venti really help on the earlier abyss for new player, or even maybe they will have enemy like before we have like what 60 or 40, like literally a lot. Like Venti can be helpful this like that type of situation. Second, if you need good NMO DPS, then yeah, Venti can be one of that you can consider. Third, if you're Archon Collector and also maybe you like his gameplay, feel free to pull for him. For Venti, should you pull for Early Constellation or Signature Weapon? For me, for Venti, just pull for his new Signature Weapon just because it's good. It gives like all evenly spread, like improving like his normal attack, skill, and even burst, and also give critical damage. So that's actually good for Venti though. His Constellation one is not bad with the new buff state. It will buff his normal attack when you use your elemental burst, so it's actually still pretty good, will improve his DPS, but the weapon itself is just better well covered on everything, not just normal attack but other skill burst, so better just go with the weapon. As for C2, C2 actually pretty good. It already buffed the NMO rest and physical rest increase become 24% right now, so actually pretty good. And also it will buff his normal attack after you use the burst, but it's also by chance 25%, so I don't usually like this type of constellation. It's actually good if you can trigger, but it's kind of like rely on RNG, so I don't really like it. But in the end, I still recommend to pull his new signature weapon first, then go for Constellation. Next character is Varesa. Varesa in general is one of the best DPS right now, and not just like become really strong DPS, he also probably I can say the last flexible DPS, because after Varesa, oh man, all the main DPS right now, even their meta, they are so restrictive. You need like dedicated support like Skirt with Escoffier, Lauma with Nevers, Flins with Inefa, yeah, something like that. It just become like type of route. But Varesa, no, you don't really necessarily need it. You can go with the Overload team, it's good. You can go with Mawika team, it's good. You can go with just like Plunge team with like Cloud Retainer and Furina, something like that. Yeah, it still can works and it's still relatively strong. And for recent patch, this is actually quite rare though, which I kind of miss this type of DPS. So that's one of her biggest positive. And another thing is that she is actually pretty good in terms of exploration, because basically it's just print, right? Very versatile to travel, especially in Notcry. You don't really have any more character that can go in traversal. She is actually pretty handy in there. As for the downside, I think to Notcry again Varesa, I don't have any meaningful downside about her. But I can just want to say she has one of the annoyance where you can accidentally press kill 2 times and it kinda messed up her rotation though. I know it's kinda skill issue, but it's quite happened for me like once in a while, and yeah, that can be quite annoying. Also, she has 2 different bars, so if you don't pay attention, you can end up using the burst that you don't want, so that's what a little bit annoyance though. As for my recommendation for you to pull for Varesa, which is first, if you need very strong man DPS and also flexible, that not really dependent on certain dedicated support, then I recommend for Varesa. Second, maybe you like to play in Plunge or Overload team. Yeah, she's this type of gimmick, so if you like, then yeah, you might be like Varesa. Third, if you enjoy exploration, I can say Varesa in exploration actually pretty good, because also not so much rely on burst, also like can run fast, so pretty good in terms of exploration. So if you like exploration, I think Varesa can be a good character for you. Lastly, of course, if you like character gameplay, feel free to pull for her. For Varesa, she'll pull for Early Constellation or Signature Weapon. If you only actually care pure about damage, then Signature Weapon is actually better, mostly because it gives you critical damage, attack, but plunging attack, also even more critical damage. So that's usually good in terms of damage though. However, if you care also about exploration and yet also increasing damage, then Constellation can be a better option, because it still buff you, it still improve the plunging damage increase by 180%, which is actually pretty good, not like very far behind from the weapon itself. But also the good thing itself that the literally Night Soul Blessing consumption is 30% less. So this is actually good even like outside of Natlan itself. So this is like if you care about both increasing damage and exploration, this can be a better option. But pure damage is weapon. As for C2, this is actually good, but you need to change a lot of your rotation. Mostly because in here, if you see, there's nothing about damage increase. This is basically changing her rotation itself. It will get more energy, so you will use ultimate more. And for me, when I try C2, I cannot fully utilize it, so I don't really feel a significant increase. So you need to make a lot of adjustment though when you pull C2. It's actually good constellation, but it's not as straightforward like other C2, just like pure increase damage. This one you need to have a little bit learning curve, which I don't think everyone will like it though. So for me, just prioritize first either C1 and signature weapon and get C2 after. The last one is Xilonen. So Xilonen in general is a good general support. I think the main selling of her is that she can reduce elemental resistance to the enemy. On level 10 is 36%, which is actually pretty good. One of her noticeable theme is to pair with Mawika. And for me, I kinda like to pair her with the Arlecchino too. Another good thing about her is that she is also rather a comfy general support, because some of the support, let's say like Kazuha, where you still need to use like burst, or even Jansen, you still need to do burst. The thing with Xilonen, you don't need to care about it. You just need to do skill, normal attack, you can just switch. And burst only important if you care about healing. So because of that, she somehow, I think, the comfier one compared to other option. Although maybe some of the option can be better. She is also can be a main DPS if you want to force, which is can be quite fun if you like it. Don't expect like something crazy strong, but at least it's good enough to pass. Another thing is that she also pretty good in terms of exploration, because it's just like sprint again, and for climbing too pretty comfortable, so it's pretty nice too. So in general, she is quite versatile and you can pair her with different type of element or different teams. However, she has couple of the downside or things to note. The first thing about Xilonen that I want to say is that although yeah, she's really good, very versatile, you can use like in a lot of different teams. However, lately, since Skirk release, they start to release like we call dedicated support. And this dedicated support is that if you pair with this with the main DPS, they become super strong. Literally one of the best DPS. But if you don't use this dedicated support, their power can decrease like up to 30%, some of them. Coming to the point like making contribution this general support like Xilonen, including Kazuha, become less important and become less useful compared to right now. Especially if you interest with the recent DPS or recent meta, then yeah, she is not over that much. Unless you interest more like the older character, let's say like before Mawika release, then yeah, she's still pretty much a good support. And also, Xilonen will not work as a mono geo support, cannot, mostly because Xilonen needs at least other element to trigger the shred. And in the end, I still have my recommendation for you to pull for Xilonen, which is first, if you want a general support, especially for older character before Mawika release, and to be highlight also for Mawika itself, because she is also really good with Mawika. I know you can say you can use Jansen, but Jansen can be also good with other characters, so it can free your Jansen to use in other team though, which is pretty good too, to have Xilonen. Second, if you enjoy exploration, I think Xilonen really helpful. Even in Notcry itself, I still like to use Xilonen because it's easy, you don't need to climb that much. Third, if you like character gameplay, feel free to pull for her. As for Xilonen, she'll pull for Early Constellation or signature weapon. If you care more about the versatility of the buff, the signature weapon will be better, mostly because it will give you buff like all elemental damage bonus up to 25.6%, which is actually pretty good. Her C1 is actually really whatever for me. It's only good if you care about exploration. Other than that, it gives you resistant interruption, but basically I try do the comparison. The resistant interruption not really that great though. It's only probably can take one more hit or 1.5 hit. Basically, it's not really that good though. At least for me. Her C2 actually can be better than signature weapon. However, in practical, this is quite hard to fully utilize in every element. So far that I find only useful mostly in Pyro and Hydro though. So that's why it's kind of situational too. So if you want more versatility, get the weapon first though. But if you care more, let's say like you want for Mawika or maybe for some of the Hydro character like Neuvillette, Mualani, something like that, yeah, C2 can be better though. So that's pretty much it for Wushul Pool in 6.2, and if you ask me which one is my verdict, and for me very depends on what role that you will aim. So if you aim for main DPS, I recommend is Varesa, because Varesa, I already told you before, one of the best DPS right now, and also flexible compared to recent character where DPS so restrictive. I think like Varesa is just a better option in general, and yet still strong. However, if you aim for sub DPS or support, then I recommend Durin, because Durin in general is such a versatile pyro character. She has good application as a off-field, good damage, can give also like shred, like whatever that related to the pyro reaction itself, which is good. Even you can still use him as a pyro main DPS. That's why I say she is such a versatile pyro unit that whenever you need a pyro there, then Durin pretty much can be a good option already though. So yeah, that's it. If you like this video, feel free to hit super button like, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.